welcome back to Ground Effect Aviation, Private Pilot Ground School. My name is Sean Parsons. I'm an AGI and IGI. Today I'll be going over Module 1, Lesson 3, Medical Certificates and Basic Med. A little bit about FAA medical certificates. There are 3 classes of medical certificates that you can get: first, second, and third class. Depending on what your goal is in aviation should determine what medical certificate class you should get. If you want to fly recreationally, a third class will be great. If you want to fly commercially or for an airline, then you will need a second or even a first class medical for airlines. Depending on what organization you want to work for in the future, they'll have different requirements on what you need as far as medical certificates. So to obtain a medical certificate through the FAA, you will create an account on the FAA MedExpress website and fill out an application. After that, you will make an appointment with an aviation medical examiner. These are physicians that are certified by the FAA to issue medical certificates, and you can find a local AME through the FAA's website. Each class of medical certificate will have different requirements, and you can reference 14 CFR 67 for what those requirements are. For a first class medical specifically, at age 35, you will need to get an EKG, and then once you turn 40 years old and older, you will need an EKG annually. In order to qualify to fly under Basic Med, you are required to have had at least a third class medical after July 14th, 2006. The reason for this date is that the legislation was passed on July 15th, 2016, so they went back 10 years from the date it was passed to start requiring at least a third class medical certificate. So if you've never had a medical certificate, you can't fly under Basic Med until you get at least a third class. And it's often considered that your medical certificate is the other half of your pilot certificate. Whenever you're flying as PIC, you will need your pilot certificate as well as your medical certificate with you at all times. The FAA can do what are called ramp checks, where a representative from the FAA will walk out to your plane as you're pre-flighting it and ask to see your documents. And if you don't have those, then you're out of luck. So you should have those with you at all times when you're planning to fly. You're not required to have a medical certificate to receive flight instruction, but in order to solo during your training, you will have to have your medical certificate at that point. Third class medical certificate regulations can be found in 14 CFR 67.301 to 67.315. A third class medical certificate is valid for the remainder of the month that it was issued, plus 24 calendar months for operations requiring a third class medical if you're age 40 or over on or before the date of examination, or if you're under the age of 40 on or before the date of your exam, it is valid for 60 calendar months. Second class medical certificate regulations can be found in 14 CFR 67.201 to 67.215. A second class medical certificate is valid for the remainder of the month that it was issued, plus 12 calendar months for operations requiring a second class medical, or 24 calendar months for operations requiring a third class medical if you're age 40 or over when you had your exam, or 60 calendar months for operations requiring a third class medical if you have not yet reached the age of 40 on or before the date of your exam. First class medical certificate regulations can be found in 14 CFR 67.101 to 67.115. A first class medical certificate is valid for the remainder of the month of issue, plus 6 calendar months for operations requiring a first class medical certificate if you're age 40 or over. It's valid for 12 calendar months if you are under the age of 40, or 12 calendar months for operations requiring a second class medical, or 24 calendar months for operations requiring a third class medical if you're age 40 or over on or before the date of exam, or 60 calendar months for operations requiring a third class medical certificate if the airman has not reached age 40 on or before the date of your exam. So the first class medical might seem a little confusing. It's important to remember that if you have a first class medical, you can also operate using second class and third class privileges. depending on how long those are valid for. With a second class medical, you can operate second or third class privileges for whatever dates those are valid for, depending on your age. I would recommend committing this chart to memory, or at least study it to be able to understand medical certificates and their expiration dates, because it can be a little tricky. So for instance, if you are under 40 years old under this top chart and your initial certificate was a first class, you can exercise first, second, and third class privileges for 12 calendar months. And then out to 60 months, you can exercise third class medical privileges. If your initial certificate was a second class, then out to 12 months, you can exercise second and third class privileges, and then out to 60 months, only third class privileges. And if you were issued a third class medical as your initial and you're under the age of 40, that certificate is valid for 60 months. If you're over the age of 40 and your initial certificate was a first class medical, then you can exercise first, second, and third class privileges for 6 months, after which the first class privileges are expired. And then out to 24 months, out to 12 months, you can exercise second and third class privileges. Out to 24 months, only third class privileges. And then after 24 months, that medical certificate is expired if you're over the age of 40. If your initial certificate over the age of 40 was a second class medical, then out to 12 months, you can exercise second and third class medical privileges. Out to 24 months, only third class medical privileges, and it will be expired after that. If you are over the age of 40 and your initial certificate was a third class medical, that will be valid for a full 24 calendar months, plus the remainder of the time in the month of which it was issued. So these medical certificates, like I said, they can be a little confusing. It's important to understand that you can be exercising multiple privileges under certain medical certificates for longer than what the actual certificate is. If you have any questions about these, feel free to leave those in the comments, or you can also email me at seanparsons@groundeffectaviation.com. Next, let's talk about Basic Med. So Basic Med is governed by the regulations that are found in 14 CFR 68, and the requirements for Basic Med are as follows: a third class medical certificate or special issuance medical certificate that you have held at any time after July 14th, 2006. So again, if you have never held any FAA medical certificate level, whether first, second, or third class, you will need to obtain one of those before you can fly under Basic Med. Your most recent medical certificate has not been suspended at any time, revoked, or special issuance authorization withdrawn. Your most recent FAA medical application has not been denied. A current and valid U.S. driver's license, and you must comply with all its medical requirements. You must complete an FAA-approved online Basic Med education course with a completion certificate. You will have to do this every 24 calendar months while flying under Basic Med. Complete a comprehensive medical examination checklist, or a CMEC, that can be found on the FAA's website. You must also have an exam with a state licensed physician, preferably your regular treating physician, since they know you, and that will be required every 48 months. You will also need to attest to your health and consent to a national driver registry check. So why would you want to fly under Basic Med? Basic Med is a more simple and less burdensome way to fly. Instead of having to fill out an application on the FAA's website, find an AME, and go back on a regular basis to make sure you're still able to fly, you can actually do that through your regular physician. So it's a little bit easier for those that just want to fly recreationally. You can fly any aircraft that is authorized under federal law to carry not more than 7 occupants. So they give you a pretty wide range of aircraft that you can fly under Basic Med. You can fly a plane that has a max certificated takeoff weight of not more than 12,500 pounds and carries not more than 6 passengers. So again, total is 7 occupants, including the pilot. You can operate under VFR or IFR with Basic Med within the United States at or below 18,000 feet MSL and not exceeding 250 knots. And you cannot fly or operate for compensation or hire. So who can fly under Basic Med? So pilots exercising private pilot privileges as pilot in command, or also as a required flight crew member, such as acting as a safety pilot for another pilot that is wanting to maybe fly under the hood and get some IFR time. You can act as a safety pilot for them. Flight instructors can actually instruct under Basic Med, and pilot examiners or DPEs can fly under Basic Med as well. So in another lesson, we're going to go over required logbook endorsements, private pilot privileges and limitations, and currency versus proficiency, and required personal and aircraft documents to act as PIC. And that will finish up Module 1. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to leave those in the comments or shoot me an email. I'll leave my email in the description. And I look forward to hearing from you, and we'll see you in another lesson. Thank you.